What happens when a CEO who's built his business from nothing watches a manager scream at a pregnant customer while standing just one aisle away? Yaron Grant stood in the stockroom of store number 12, adjusting the name badge on his chest that read Darren. The red polo shirt it was clipped to was a size too tight, and the khakis didn't quite fit. Perfect. That's what he wanted, completely unrecognizable. Sunglasses and a buzz cut had finished the job. Nobody would suspect the man hauling boxes in the back was the founder and CEO of the entire 19-store chain. The company had grown fast, too fast maybe. What started as a single discount household goods store in New Jersey had exploded over the last 7 years. Yaron had built it with his own hands, hauling shelves and managing inventory with his brother back in the day. But now, with layers of management and district supervisors between him and the stores, he hadn't stepped foot inside one as a worker in nearly 3 years. That changed last week. A few troubling trends had popped up. Customer reviews from a few locations were getting worse. Store 12, here in Allentown, had seen a drop in sales for 3 straight months. One complaint mentioned rude staff, another said their return was denied for no reason. The last note Yaron got from corporate HR was that staff turnover was high but within acceptable range. That didn't sit right, so here he was undercover, working a full 5-day shift as a stockroom trainee, just another new hire. He'd never met any of the people here in person. The store manager had only been with the company for 6 months and came in through a third-party recruiter. They wouldn't recognize him even if he walked in wearing a suit. "Darren, that cart's not gonna stock itself," yelled a voice from the front. It was Bryce, the assistant manager. Mid-30s, loud and always chewing gum like it owed him money. Bryce had been showing him around for the last 2 days. "On it," Yaron said, wheeling the loaded cart toward aisle 5. He passed a young cashier named Meyer on the way. She gave him a small smile and whispered when Bryce was out of earshot, "You're doing fine. Bryce is always like that. Just keep your head down." Yaron nodded. He appreciated the kindness. He'd already seen Maya help an elderly man who couldn't find light bulbs yesterday. She walked him through the whole store, even though it wasn't her job. She'd impressed him. He turned a corner to restock air fresheners when he heard it raised voices coming from the next aisle. "I'm not giving you anything without a receipt, lady. I'm not asking for money back." "Just an exchange look, the barcode's right here. I don't care if you're pregnant or not. Rules are rules." Yaron froze. He stepped closer, peering through the shelf between the canned goods. A woman stood there, visibly pregnant, holding a broken humidifier box. Her face was red, her hand resting on her lower back. Across from her stood Joseph, the store manager. Tall, heavyset, wearing a button-up with the sleeves rolled high and a name tag that read Manager Joseph. His face was twisted in frustration. "I bought it last week," the woman said, trying to keep calm. "I just want one that works. Then bring the receipt next time," Joseph barked, taking a step toward her. "You people think you can play the baby card and get whatever you want, not in my store." Yaron's blood went cold. The woman flinched but didn't back down. "You don't have to yell. I didn't come here to fight." Joseph crossed his arms and scoffed. "Then don't argue. You don't like it. Take it up with corporate." Yaron stepped out from his aisle and stood at the end. Joseph didn't notice him. The woman looked up and saw him, her eyes meeting his for a moment. She looked embarrassed, almost like she was about to cry. "Excuse me," Yaron said, walking closer. He kept his voice steady. "I was just stocking shelves." "I couldn't help but hear, 'Mind your business,'" Joseph snapped without even turning. "This doesn't concern you." Yaron didn't move. "Actually, it does." Joseph finally turned and looked at him, annoyed. "Who even are you, Darren?" Yaron said, still calm. "New stock trainee." Joseph rolled his eyes. "Then go back to the stockroom, Darren." Yaron looked at the woman. "Ma'am, I'm sorry. Would you mind waiting at the front for a moment? I'll make sure someone helps you properly." She hesitated, then nodded and walked away, cradling the box. Joseph watched her go. "You're not a supervisor, Darren. Don't tell customers what to do." "I wasn't." Yaron's tone was sharp now. "I was apologizing for how you treated her." Joseph stepped forward, towering over him. "You've been here, what, 2 days? Don't talk to me like you know anything." Bryce appeared from the back, chewing gum. "Everything okay?" No, Yaron said, not even close. He walked past them, heart pounding. He didn't want to blow his cover yet, not like this, but this wasn't just a rude moment, that was targeted, personal. And it wasn't the first thing he'd noticed. Earlier that day, he'd seen a younger employee, Jalen, get told off for taking his break 5 minutes early. But Bryce had been in the break room for 30 minutes after his shift ended, feet on the table, playing games on his phone. He'd also noticed the back room was a mess. Safety standards were being ignored, boxes stacked too high, fire exit blocked. Nobody cared, the only bright spots were the employees who tried. Maya, Jalen. A girl named Serena on the cleaning crew who showed up early each morning and helped unload deliveries without being asked. Yaron returned to the break room and sat alone. His hands trembled slightly. He wasn't just angry. He was disappointed in himself. How had it gotten this bad without him knowing? He took a deep breath. He had 2 more days undercover. He wasn't going to waste them. He needed to see more, hear more. Watch how Joseph treated the team when he thought nobody important was watching, but after what he saw in that aisle. Something had to change. Soon. The next morning, Yaron arrived before sunrise. The parking lot was still empty, save for a single sedan parked near the loading dock. Inside, the lights were half on, casting a dim yellow glow over the aisles. He walked in through the back, punching the wall-mounted time clock with his fake ID badge. Serena was already sweeping near the break room, earbuds in, her cart of cleaning supplies by her side. She gave him a nod without pausing. He returned it and made his way to the stock area. The air was thick with the scent of cardboard and plastic wrap, and the soft hum of refrigeration units buzzed along the walls. He didn't say anything as he started unloading a pallet of boxed toasters. His body was sore from the past 2 days, but he welcomed the ache. It kept his mind sharp. By the time the rest of the morning crew filtered in, Bryce included, the sun had just begun to edge over the rooftops. Bryce gave a half-hearted wave, then immediately disappeared into the staff office with a can of energy drink in one hand and his phone in the other. Yaron made his rounds slowly, noting how the team interacted when no managers were around. Maya was helping Jalen set up the seasonal display, laughing about some music they both liked. Their ease with each other stood out in sharp contrast to how carefully they stiffened whenever Joseph or Bryce entered the floor. By mid-morning, Joseph arrived. His voice echoed down the aisles before he was even visible. Let's keep it sharp today, people. District lead's doing surprise visits this week. I don't want to see anyone standing around. Yaron watched from the end of aisle 16 as Joseph clapped his hands once, loud and sudden. Maya nearly dropped a box of plastic pumpkins. Joseph walked past her without acknowledging the near miss. Seasonal's still crooked. Fix the top row. You want it looking like a rummage sale. I was just about to, then do it, not about to do it. Jalen bent down to adjust a box, but Joseph snapped his fingers. Not you, go mop the entry floor, it's streaked. Jalen hesitated. I thought Serena was, did I ask what Serena was doing? Jalen gave Meyer a look and walked off, head low. Yaron moved toward the front, pretending to organize a stack of folding chairs while keeping his ears open. Joseph's tone never changed. He barked orders, cut people off mid-sentence, and corrected tasks that didn't need correcting. The team's energy dimmed with every pass he made. What struck Yaron most wasn't the volume, it was the precision. Joseph knew exactly what to say to make people feel small without raising his voice again. Around lunchtime, Yaron slipped outside to the small fenced area behind the building where a few employees usually took their breaks. Sure enough, Jalen was there, leaning against the wall, sipping from a paper cup. Mind if I sit? Jalen glanced up. Yeah, sure. Quiet back here. Yaron sat on the curb, stretching his legs. You've been here a while, he asked. Jalen nodded. Almost a year, long time in retail. Jalen gave a half laugh. Yeah, I guess I'm used to it. You always get reassigned like that. Jalen looked at him sideways. You mean earlier, that's just how Joseph is. He calls it rotating tasks, says it keeps us versatile, but he only ever rotates certain people. Certain people, Jalen shrugged. Let's just say Serena never gets pulled off janitorial and Bryce never gets asked to unload deliveries. Yaron nodded slowly. And HR, ever raise anything? Jalen leaned his head back against the brick wall. We had this guy a few months ago, Lewis. He filed a complaint, said Joseph was singling people out. HR did one of those we'll look into it things. 2 weeks later, Lewis got written up for being uncooperative. He quit after that. Yaron didn't respond. He stared at the sliver of sky above the fence line. Jalen stood up. Break's over. Stick around long enough, you'll see it all. He flicked his cup into the trash and walked off. That afternoon, Yaron spent most of his shift in the receiving dock. The delivery truck was late and Bryce didn't feel like waiting for it, so Yaron and Serena were left to prep the back area alone. Serena was quiet, focused. She moved with efficiency, but her eyes kept flicking toward the main floor. "You always work this hard?" Yaron asked, carefully lifting a stack of light fixtures onto a dolly. Serena didn't look up. "It's easier to keep busy." "Easier than what?" She paused, then turned to face him. "Easier than being noticed." Yaron tilted his head. "Why would that be a problem?" "Because people like Joseph notice the wrong things." He let that sit. Serena returned to slicing open boxes with her box cutter, and the conversation died there. The truck finally arrived late in the afternoon. The driver apologized, said the warehouse was backed up. As they unloaded, Joseph appeared again, this time on the phone, pacing near the service desk. "No, I told you if it's not in the system, we don't process it. I don't care what the customer says. Policy's policy." He glanced toward the back and yelled out, "Darren, get that pallet shrink wrapped and logged. I want it cleared before 6. Yaron gave a thumbs up and turned back to the dolly. Inside, his patience was thinning. That evening, just before close, he caught Maya near the front. She was restocking price tags, eyes heavy with fatigue. He walked beside her, pretending to adjust a shelf label. "Maya, can I ask something?" She gave a tired smile. "Sure. If someone had a problem, something serious, would you even feel safe saying anything?" Maya's face shifted instantly. Her smile faded and she stared at the roll of tags in her hand for a long moment. "I don't know," she said finally. "I mean, I used to think yes, but now." "No one listens. We just talk to each other and hope nothing worse happens." "Worse?" She nodded. "Last month, a woman came in to return a fan that cracked during use. Joseph accused her of lying, said she probably broke it herself. She left crying. I wrote a note about it in the team feedback box." The next day, the box was gone. Yaron didn't reply. He just stood there, watching her hands tremble slightly as she tore another tag off the roll. "I thought this job would be different," she said quietly. "I liked it at first. But now I just count the hours." He thanked her and walked away, his chest tight. Later that night, after the store closed, Yaron stayed behind to finish logging the shipment. Joseph had left 20 minutes earlier, and Bryce hadn't been seen since lunch. The silence was thick. Just the hum of the lights and the occasional creak of the building settling. He stood in the center of the stockroom, surrounded by unopened boxes and empty carts. His team, the people he used to fight for, were buckling under leadership that crushed initiative, punished empathy, and rewarded silence. He'd seen enough. He pulled out his phone, unlocked it, and opened his private contact list. He made a call to his chief of operations, speaking quietly but firmly, giving her the full story. Then he asked for a meeting with HR's regional head the next morning. He paused before ending the call. "And I want Maya, Jalen, and Serena scheduled off tomorrow," he said. "Paid." "No explanation yet, just make it happen." He hung up. The next day, he wouldn't be Darren. He'd walk into that store as Yaron Grant. And this time, no one would look away. At precisely 8:45 the next morning, the glass doors of store 12 slid open, and Yaron Grant walked in clean-shaven, tailored navy jacket over a white dress shirt, no name tag. The morning crew was already on the floor, heads down, restocking and prepping for the Friday rush. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The store smelled faintly of pine cleaner and cardboard. He walked past the front registers without slowing, scanning the floor. Joseph wasn't out yet. Bryce was at the customer service counter, leaning against a display of surge protectors and sipping something from a tall stainless steel mug. He didn't look up. Yaron headed straight for the office corridor. The back hallway was just wide enough for two people to pass shoulder to shoulder. At the end of it was the manager's office door open, lights on. Inside, Joseph sat at the desk with his back to the door, staring at a spreadsheet on the monitor, clicking something with short, aggressive jabs. Yaron stepped in silently. Joseph didn't turn. Delivery's late again. I already told the warehouse, you're not speaking to the warehouse. Joseph spun his chair around, his eyes flicked up then narrowed. Can I help you? Yaron didn't sit. You can close the door. Joseph hesitated. I won't ask twice, Yaron said. Joseph stood and pushed the door until it latched. He leaned against the desk, arms crossed, scanning Yaron's posture like he was sizing up a vendor. You corporate? I'm Yaron Grant. The name didn't register. Joseph blinked once, then tilted his head. I own this company, Yaron added. Start to finish. My name's on the incorporation papers and the payroll system. You've worked for me for 6 months. You saw me yesterday. I was unpacking dehumidifiers 3 aisles down. Joseph's mouth opened slightly, then closed again. He dropped his arms. You wait. You're the guy, Darren. Yaron nodded once. Joseph looked unsure whether to laugh or apologize. He settled on neither. Okay, I wasn't told about any inspections. That was the point. Joseph stood straighter. I run a tight store, numbers are consistent. We've had some staffing turnover, but I've kept things moving. Yaron took a step forward. You berated a pregnant woman over a returned item. You accused her of lying about her receipt. You ignored the barcode and refused to check the transaction log. Then you told her she was playing the baby card. Joseph's jaw set. Sir, we follow standard return policy. No receipt, no exchange unless it's in the system. She told you it was purchased last week. Did you even ask what day? There's no way to verify. Yaron raised his voice. You didn't try. You dismissed her, loud enough that 3 other customers walked out. I watched it happen. Joseph shifted his weight. Look, I admit I was direct, but we get scammers in here all the time. If I relax the standards, they'll walk all over us. You don't get to decide who's a scammer based on how tired or emotional they look. You don't get to humiliate people because you think you know better. Joseph looked down. If there was a better way to handle it, I'm open to feedback. This isn't feedback, Yaron said. This is your last 10 minutes as store manager. Joseph's head snapped up. You've created a culture where people are afraid to speak. You punish anyone who questions your decisions and protect those who cover for you. There are no second warnings for that here. Joseph's face flushed. You're making a mistake. You're basing this on one interaction. No, Yaron cut in. I'm basing this on 4 days of watching how you run this store. I've reviewed your shift logs, personnel reports, and inventory handling. I've seen how you speak to staff when you think no one's watching. You've ignored safety protocols, retaliated against complaints, and erased employee feedback. You're done. Joseph took a breath, held it, then exhaled slowly. I built this location back from a deficit. You think someone else is going to keep it afloat? Yaron didn't react. There's an HR rep in the break room. She'll walk you through the separation steps. Leave your keys and badge on the desk. Joseph opened his mouth again, then thought better of it. He turned, opened the top drawer, pulled out a ring of keys and placed them gently on the desk. Then he walked out without another word. Yaron stayed there in the quiet. The air conditioning clicked on. He stared at the wall for a moment, then turned and left. In the break room, several heads turned as he entered. Meyer and Jalen were sitting at the corner table, Serena near the vending machine with her arms folded. Next to the microwave stood a woman in a gray pantsuit holding a slim leather folder. Dana, HR's regional manager. She nodded when she saw him. Are we ready? She asked. Yaron nodded. Let's go. They stepped into the open space near the lockers. The staff quieted. Bryce stood near the coffee maker, half a foot away from the others, watching carefully. Yaron faced the group. I know most of you don't know me. My name is Yaron Grant. I started this company out of a storage unit in Newark. For the last 4 days, I've been working undercover in this store to understand what's really going on. There were a few exchanged glances. Bryce crossed his arms. I saw a lot, Yaron continued. Some of it good, some of it unacceptable. He looked directly at Bryce. Effective immediately, the store manager has been relieved of duty. We're initiating a review of all assistant manager conduct and supervisory decisions over the last 6 months. That includes how breaks, task assignments, and shift coverage have been handled. Bryce straightened. Review's fine, but we've done everything by the book, Yaron cut him off. If you've done nothing wrong, you'll have nothing to worry about, but let me be clear. This store has been operating in a way that goes against everything this company stands for. That ends today. He turned to the rest of the team. Maya, Jalen, Serena, you're not working today. You're being paid to meet with HR individually and share anything you've seen or experienced here. There will be no retaliation. If you choose not to return after this, we'll still cover 2 weeks of wages while you transition. Maya blinked. Jalen looked stunned. Serena nodded once slowly. Yaron continued, this store is going to get the support it needs: new leadership, new training, and a direct line to senior operations. No more layers of silence. He paused. I owe all of you an apology. I let this go on too long without seeing it for myself. That won't happen again. He turned to Dana. Let's begin the sessions. Start with Serena. Dana gestured toward the office, and Serena followed without speaking. Meyer and Jalen sat down again, still processing. Yaron walked out to the floor. The aisles looked the same as yesterday, clean, full, fluorescent, but the energy was different. Staff stood straighter when he passed, not because they feared him, but because the weight pressing down on them had shifted. At the register, 2 customers waited in line. One of the newer hires, a teenager named Lewis, not the same one Jalen had mentioned, was fumbling with the scanner. Yaron stepped behind the counter and whispered something to him. The kid laughed nervously, adjusted his grip, and scanned the item again. The transaction went through. Yaron smiled and stepped back. He didn't need to stay behind the counter. He just needed to stay involved. On Monday, the store opened late. Paper signs taped to the front doors read, closed until 10:30 a.m. for staff meeting. Inside, the lights were dimmed and the registers powered down. Every employee, cashiers, stockers, janitorial, even the part-time weekend crew sat on folding chairs arranged in a semicircle in front of the seasonal display. The aisles were quiet, the overhead music turned off. No customers, no managers barking orders. Yaron stood without a microphone, jacket off, sleeves rolled to his elbows. He waited until the last chair was filled. I know this is not a normal start to your shift, he said, but I didn't come back here to run things the same way. I came here to fix what I allowed to break. No one interrupted. Some crossed their arms. A few leaned forward. Maya sat near the middle, eyes steady. Jalen sat beside her. Serena sat 2 rows back, hands folded neatly in her lap. Yaron continued. First thing, Bryce is no longer with the company. Following the internal review, we confirmed that he misused his position, failed to report safety issues, and altered schedule logs for personal convenience. That's not leadership, that's exploitation. Someone near the back let out a breath. No one laughed. Second, we're no longer running this store with a hierarchy built on fear. Starting today, this location will operate under a dual rotation leadership model. That means 2 assistant managers will rotate weekly leadership duties, with oversight from a regional support officer who reports directly to my operations team. No more single-point control, no more unchecked power. He looked around the group. You'll also see a new system installed near the break room. It's a secure feedback terminal, anonymous, encrypted, and reviewed every Friday by our internal ethics team. If you see something that threatens a teammate's safety, dignity, or rights, you report it. And it gets seen. Several employees shifted in their seats. One cashier, a woman who hadn't spoken once during the prior week, raised her hand. What if it's about someone who's still here? Yaron didn't hesitate. Then that report triggers a confidential review. No one will know who submitted it. You won't be retaliated against, and you won't have to wait weeks for someone to respond. Another hand. A young man with a name tag that read Anthony. Are we getting a new store manager, or is it just rotating now? Yaron nodded. You will get a new manager, but not someone from outside. We're promoting from within. He turned slowly, eyes landing on Serena. You've shown consistency, grace under pressure, and a commitment to this store that most people never notice. But I did. So did your coworkers. Serena sat up straighter. If you're willing, Yaron said, I'd like you to take on the assistant manager role and begin the leadership rotation this week. The room went still. Serena blinked, then stood slowly. If I accept, I don't want to be just a buffer between the staff and corporate. I want authority to change scheduling systems, approve supply orders, and adjust floor coverage without waiting on 4 layers of approval. You'll have that, Yaron said. Along with a salary increase and full benefits. She nodded once and sat back down. Yaron turned to Maya. You've shown real emotional intelligence under pressure. You've guided customers and coworkers without ever stepping on anyone's pride. That's rare. I'd like you to join the same rotation program if you're open to it. Maya leaned forward, brow furrowed. Only if I can stay on register too. I don't want to lose touch with the floor. I want to be where people are. You'll split time, Yaron said. Exactly the way you want. You'll lead from the floor. A few people clapped. It wasn't loud, but it was genuine. Yaron waited for the room to settle again. There's going to be a shift in how we run inventory too. Stock logs will be digital, and every employee will be trained to access product availability. No more waiting for approval to help a customer. If you know something's in the back, you go get it. If it's broken, you make the call to pull it. You don't need a manager to treat a customer with basic respect. Jalen raised a hand. What about equipment safety? The back still got broken ladders, and the loading dock lift jams if you run it cold. I've already ordered replacements for both, Yaron said. And I've assigned a safety compliance officer to inspect this store weekly for the next 2 months. If something's not safe, it doesn't get used. Period. Jalen nodded and sat back. I'm also introducing a new role shift mentor, someone who's not a manager, just a peer, available for training, guidance, and conflict navigation. Jalen, I want you in that role. You've got the right balance of patience and presence. You don't yell. You listen. Jalen looked stunned. I've never led anything. You've already been doing it, Yaron said. That's why I'm asking. He let that settle. Final point. You're all getting a retention bonus. It's not massive, but it's tangible. Every employee who's worked here over 6 months gets an extra paycheck next week. And if you choose to stay on under this new structure, you'll be eligible for the new development program we're launching next quarter. The room shifted again, not louder, but lighter. Shoulders relaxed. Arms uncrossed. A few whispered to each other. Yaron looked at the group one last time. You're not just employees. You're the reason this company exists. I lost sight of that. I won't again. He stepped back. Dana, the HR lead, stood beside him. We'll be available all day for anyone who wants to talk privately, and we're staying in town all week. Yaron nodded and turned to Maya. Open the doors when you're ready, he said. Today's yours. She stood and walked to the front, flipping the lock with a small click. The glass doors slid open as the first customers approached. A mother with a toddler, an older man with a shopping list in his hand, a teenager looking for light bulbs. Yaron stayed near the exit, watching as the store came to life again. Serena was already at the floor map, reorganizing the shift board with a dry erase marker. Jalen was walking a new hire through the stockroom, pointing out updated safety labels. Maya helped a customer find the right size curtain rod, crouching beside a shelf to double-check the packaging. It didn't feel like a different store. It felt like the store it had always wanted to be. Yaron stepped outside, blinking against the morning light. The air was cool. Cars were pulling into the lot, one by one. He stood for a moment, hands in his pockets, breathing it in. Then he turned and walked toward his car. He wasn't needed inside anymore. Not for now, and that was the point.